I tripped and fell.
Baby, don't get it.
A hoo-ha dress. Actress Gillian Anderson pulled up to the Golden Globes last night in what I personally thought was the best dress of the night. It's a simple white gown with pockets. Now the pockets isn't what made her dress stand out, and it's not even because of how incredible she looked last night. You probably didn't notice at a first glance because I for sure did not, but let's take a look at the dress again. If we zoom in a bit, you would notice the white detailing on the dress. And if you think it's a leaf or a flower of some sort, then bless your pure and innocent soul. And please click away before I ruin your mind. Gillian did say the design was inspired by floral patterns of the peony flower. However, when asked, she straight up called them the yonis, which, if you're unfamiliar with the female anatomy, don't worry because Google is free. She shared that the dress was a collaboration between designer Gabriella Hearst and the actress's own brand, a wellness beverage with a very special name, which makes the dress even more fitting. According to her, each flower embroidery took 3.5 hours, and considering it's all over the dress, you can only imagine how long this took. Not only does the dress slay, but they also made it comfortable and provided extra layers to keep her warm. Next up is the fist fight. During the 2021 VMAs, Machine Gun Kelly and MMA fighter Conor McGregor got into a fight right at the red carpet. It was less of an actual physical fight and more of a hissy fit thanks to the surrounding bodyguards and staff. Without them, who knows what they would have done to each other. According to witnesses at the event, there was an unheard exchange between the two stars, but no one actually knows who said what or who provoked who. One thing was for certain, no one was getting beat on the red carpet, and I just feel like these workers do not get paid enough for the unnecessary drama they have to deal with. Some claimed Conor asked for a selfie but was denied, and that's when he got angry and launched himself towards the artist alongside his girlfriend Megan Fox. Later that evening, Conor was asked what happened and he denied their little scuffle before saying he only fights real fighters and not little vanilla boy rappers.
Just rumours. Nothing happened with me. I only fight real fighters, people that actually fight, you know what I mean? I certainly don't fight little vanilla boy rappers. You know, I don't even know the guy. I don't know anything about him.
Up next, we have Zac Efron's Cinderella moment. So at this point in 2012, Zac Efron's Disney Channel days have long since been over. He was attending the movie premiere for his newest film at the time, The Lorax, aka the family-friendly movie about climate change, when this happened. It's kind of hard to tell because the video looks like it was recorded on a broken toaster, but basically one of the actor's personal belongings fell out of his pocket while in front of all these cameras. He quickly tries to hand it off discreetly to a staff member there before he drops it yet again and laughs it off. And as embarrassing as this was, at least he uses protection. Anyways, later he was asked about it and it was basically an accident because he didn't check what he had on before walking the carpet.
What happened? You dropped something on the red carpet.
I did. And I never really had a pocket checking policy prior to going onto the red carpet before, but now we fully instated one prior to going onto the red carpet.
It's wild that of all times this could happen, it had to be at a red carpet event in front of paparazzi. This incident will never be forgotten. Coming up next is the mother-daughter tantrum. During the 2015 Oscar Awards, Dakota Johnson took her mother / fellow actress Melanie Griffith with her as her date. During this time, 50 Shades of Grey was nominated that year and was the it movie that everyone watched and everyone was talking about. All except for Melanie. When asked, the actress shared how proud she was of her daughter, but also that she's never watched the movie because it would be weird, and considering the movie's rating and plot, you can understand why. Anyways, this caused some tension instantly as Dakota seemed irritated that her mother refuses to watch her movie.
Well, she's a really good actress. I don't need to see that to know how good she is. You know? All right. You don't have to see it. I'm like, you can see it, and you're just like, no.
It seemed like the reporter Loki had to mediate between the two and move past the awkward tension that conspired. And as awkward as this was to watch back, you'd be surprised how common these conversations are between a mother and a daughter. Coming up next is Kim Kardashian's explosion. Back in 2012, this happened. At this time, Kim was walking the red carpet for her own perfume launch when she was ambushed by flour being thrown at her by some unknown woman who, if you didn't hear in the video, called her a fur hag. It was believed that the woman targeted Kim specifically to protest her and her family's excessive use of fur coats and stuff. During the incident, she didn't press charges and then returned to the carpet after having gotten rid of the flour and seemed completely unfazed by the whole thing. In fact, she actually laughed about it with reporters, joking about how she wanted her makeup artist to give her more powder, but she didn't expect this much. According to publicist Shiraz Hassan, who used to work with the reality star in the past, he said the whole thing was staged. He claimed that Kim wasn't actually targeted randomly, and her team had it orchestrated to give more attention to her perfume line, which is kind of clever but weird considering she was already famous. Like, let's be real, have you ever done something so extreme just for clout? Next up is Will Smith's slap. So if you thought I was gonna talk about the infamous Oscar slap from a couple of years ago, you'd be wrong. Because the first time Will Smith gave someone a piece of his mind was a decade before that. It was the year 2012 and the actor was at the movie premiere for his new film at the time, Men in Black 3, when he encountered the insufferable Vitaly Saduk. Vitaly Saduk is the man whose main mission in life is to wreak havoc among any celebrity he can get his hands on. Will Smith was not his first nor his last. Anyways, at this event, Vitaly seemed to be interviewing Will, and as they finish, he asks for a hug, which Will agreed to because why not? And then Vitaly goes in for a smooch, which was something Will did not consent to. And it'd be easy to feel sorry for the guy until you find out that this man is notorious for his odd behavior, provoking celebrities. He probably didn't expect to get slapped, but he definitely asked for it, and you can't change my mind otherwise. Next up is Tom Cruise and the prankster. Tom Cruise did not appreciate being pranked while in the middle of an interview, and he made sure they knew that loud and clear. During the premiere for his movie, War of the Worlds, he thought he was being interviewed by some regular reporter before he was instantly squirted by a water gun mid-sentence.
Now, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Come here. Come here. Why would you do that?
The actor did not hesitate to confront the man, who seemed taken off guard and unsure of how to respond to him after he asked him why he would do that. Even when the man tries to remove himself from the situation, Tom refuses to let him, even calling him rude and a jerk. Later, we find out that the guy was working with 3 other men and they all work under this British network for their show that specializes in pranking celebrities. The joke was on them though, because the 4 of them were detained by police shortly after, and their company wrote out an apology to Tom for the incident. Next up on the list, Kesha's unwanted hug. At some red carpet event several years ago, Kesha found herself on the carpet the same time as Jerry Seinfeld, whom she is a very big fan of. The actor was in the middle of an interview on his own when Kesha intervened.
People are tired most of the time.
I love you so much.
Oh, thanks.
Can I give you a hug?
No, thanks.
Please?
No, thanks.
A little one.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Oh.
Yeah, this video was awkward enough on its own, but at least she asked for consent. Some people thought he was rude for turning her down, but he later shared that he didn't intend on being rude. He just felt taken aback because she sprung out of nowhere and he truly did not know who she was. I just think this could be a learning lesson for all of us. Should Kesha have kept pushing for a hug even after he said no? Probably not. Could Jerry have declined in a nicer way? Yeah, probably. But still, viewers remain divided on this, so whose side are you on? Up next is The American Ambush. During the premiere for the second How to Train Your Dragon movie, actress America Ferrera was unfortunately the target of Vitaly's shenanigans. No one knows who keeps giving this guy access to these things or why he's able to access celebrities so easily, but considering it's been years since his last attempt, I think it's safe to say he's finally retired from being an absolute menace. Anyways, while America and the rest of the cast were getting their pictures taken, Vitaly somehow managed to get under her dress before he was grabbed by security and removed from the venue. Sometimes the man just does the most out of protest, but there's literally no reason he should be crawling under dresses at any point. Viewers wondered how he managed to even get that far under her dress before someone actually noticed. America seemed confused and angry, and rightfully so, before she proceeded with the red carpet event. And last but not least, the Met Gala cockroach. Celebrities aren't the only ones getting their time to shine at the Met Gala carpet. During last year's event, there was an uninvited guest that captured the hearts and eyes of onlookers. It even got the attention of one photographer who actually spent a solid moment or so taking pictures of the bug. Aside from that, the only people who cared about the cockroach's attendance was the internet, who did what they do best and made memes about it. Some even pointed out how fitting it was that a cockroach came, considering the gala's theme then. The theme was dedicated to the late fashion mogul, Karl Lagerfeld, who was famous for his fashion, but also remembered for his unprovoked attitude and poor views. While he was an icon in his own right, he was also a misogynist despite his main demographic being women. He was also xenophobic, fatphobic, and probably some other icks. Anyways, the roach's rise to fame was cut short, as well as its life, as it was later reported that its body was found crushed on the carpet later. Unofficially named Roach Rocherson, you will be missed.
At the start of our list, we have Jack Harlow. He was on the red carpet at the 2022 Met Gala, which was interesting for many reasons. But his extremely awkward interaction with Emma Chamberlain was a stake in his career. She was doing the interview at the event and was speaking with Jack Harlow, but towards the end of the interview, he said, "Love you," and Emma just stood there in absolute shock. She looked like she was questioning everything. They began laughing out of surprise. The entire situation seemed so odd, and while it may not have ended his career, he sure knows how to keep an event interesting. Then we have John Travolta. His career was already on the down and out, but he was still attending red carpet events because he still thought he was relevant. In an interesting turn of events, he took Scarlett Johansson by her waist and planted a kiss on her cheek, which made her, the interviewer, and the audience extremely uncomfortable. The other time he botched his reputation was when he mispronounced Idina Menzel's name wrong in front of a live audience, then tried to brush it off. Overall, we just need to stop inviting him to red carpet events because he isn't nearly as relevant as he used to be, and we need to stop letting him think that. Next on the list, we have Kristen Stewart. Her career was already on the rocks at this point. The incident in question didn't ruin her career, but it made a lot of other celebrities question her determination to stay invited to Hollywood events. She was wearing very tall and pointy stilettos while posing for photos, and as soon as the paparazzi got all the photos they needed, she took off her heels and walked barefoot up the stairs and into the venue. It must have been liberating for her and was definitely a power move, but a lot of other female celebrities can manage a whole night in heels, and they sit for most of the award show anyway, so was it really necessary? Following that, we have Kesha. Kesha had her glory days, and as she grew up, she kind of grew out of what made her famous. So when she aggressively approached Jerry Seinfeld while on the red carpet, it just added to the fact that her career was going down the drain. Jerry was being interviewed when Kesha approached him, introduced herself, and said she was a huge fan. Jerry thanked her and continued the interview, attempting to brush her off, so she would take a hint. This was when she asked for a hug, which made him even more uncomfortable. He politely declined, but she insisted one more time, and he just flat out said no. Then she finally took the hint and walked away. It was more embarrassing for her than anyone else. Then we have Sacha Baron Cohen. He has his iconic character of being Admiral General Aladdin, which was funny for a little while. But when he took the character too far, it ruined his career. He dumped someone's ashes out of an urn onto Ryan Seacrest, who was being an interviewer at the time. Ryan was absolutely stunned by the action, as anyone in their right mind would be. But apparently it was all planned. It was a career ender all the same. Next on the list is Lady Gaga. She's taken a few red carpets a little too seriously. One of these times when she wore an entire dress made of different cuts of meat, her shoes and hairpiece were meat as well. Overall, it was gross and wasteful and should have marked a low point in her career. But it didn't. She also used a concerning amount of special effects while on stage at the VMAs, which made a lot of onlookers very uncomfortable. And while she was being interviewed at the AMAs, she practically ignored a teenage Zendaya who made no effort to hide her facial expressions. Lady Gaga doesn't handle well on the red carpet, even if it didn't ruin her career. Following that, we have Yulia Rybakova. Lots of people have had wardrobe malfunctions, but poor Yulia lost the entire bottom half of her skirt. Thankfully for her, the top piece was a bodysuit, so there was nothing incredibly revealing about it. But it was incredibly embarrassing for her all the same. She was at Cannes in 2018, seeing as she's a Russian plus-size model, but it wasn't the win to her own doing. A man accidentally stepped on the train of her skirt, and when she went to walk away, it ripped off from her waist. He quickly rushed to help her put it back on, but it was a nightmare situation all the same. Second to last, we have Tiffany Haddish. She's a well-rounded individual, or so we thought. While at the 2023 VMAs, Tiffany went out of her way to photobomb Shakira, and actually successfully did it multiple times. But Shakira paid her zero mind. She even tried to get Shakira's attention multiple times before going as far as photobombing her. She didn't even apologize for her actions, and seemed pretty proud of it if anything. It was very low of Tiffany to try and steal her spotlight, and it definitely made people think differently of her and her career. And last but not least, we have Amy Schumer. Her career has been strange because some people think she's the bee's knees and other people can't stand her. But we all stood in agreement when she threw herself in front of Kim Kardashian and Ye West. The idea behind it was that it was supposed to be a practical joke and would make them laugh, or react at all. But it didn't. She just made a straight up fool of herself in front of all the onlookers. She explained the practical joke to Kim afterwards, which she then laughed at, awkwardly all the same. It definitely made her career seem even more like a joke than it was before.
Coming up next, we have Tom Cruise. In the middle of an interview during the premiere for his movie World of Wars, Tom was squirted with some water from a microphone. The vibe was instantly ruined when Tom asked the reporter why he did that. It's obvious that the prankster reporter was not prepared for Tom to react the way he did, as he provided nervous apologies, but that was not enough for him. Thankfully, a staff member noticed what was going on and was by Tom's side, ready to intervene if the opportunity presented itself. While Tom continued to push him for answers that he doesn't get, he called him ridiculous before walking away. Later, we find out that the reporter was one of 3 other men working for an upcoming British comedy show meant to prank celebrities. And while the joke was harmless in the grand scheme of things, Tom was obviously not for it. The 4 men in question ended up getting arrested and released the next day. Their company released a public apology towards the actor, saying that they never meant to offend him. Next up on the list, we have Machine Gun Kelly and Conor McGregor. During the 2021 VMA red carpet, Machine Gun Kelly and Conor McGregor almost had a full-on brawl. In one of the videos captured at the event, the two were seen exchanging unheard words before Conor lashed out. If it weren't for the many security staff there, the two definitely would have went into a legit fistfight. Even now, no one knows who instigated the whole thing or if it was a publicity stunt. But even now, no one knows who instigated the whole thing or if it was a publicity stunt because of how random it was. According to one source, Conor approached the artist, who was accompanied by girlfriend Megan Fox, and he asked for a photo but was denied. But fighting someone because they turned you down for a selfie seems far-fetched. Other sources denied these rumors, but there hasn't been any word on it since. Later that evening, Conor was interviewed and was asked why he swung first. The MMA fighter denied having any scuffle and even said that he didn't even know the guy. He said that nothing happened and that he only fights real fighters, not, and I quote, little vanilla boy rappers. Next up on the list is Nicki Minaj and the reporter. Last year during the Met Gala, it seemed like Nicki Minaj had some beef with a reporter. In a video taken at the event, Nicki was in the middle of getting her photos done at the red carpet when she recognized someone off camera. She asked the person if he was the one that spoiled the surprise that she would be attending, and after she seemed to confirm it herself, she says that she's going over there to slap the blank out of him, if you know what I mean. The small confrontation implied that her attendance was actually a secret until this reporter ratted her out. Even now, it's unclear who the reporter was, but viewers were more focused on Nicki's behavior than anything else. One person commented that she's always trying to fight with someone when it's unnecessary, and others thought that she was being super unprofessional about it all. However, it seems like the video was taken almost out of context and it wasn't that serious. According to another user, the video failed to show what happened right after, where Nicki is laughing right after she threatened him. Coming up next is Miley Cyrus and Liam Hemsworth. 6 months before the former married couple announced their divorce, they were at a red carpet event for Vanity Fair. And generally, you can tell that Miley is more outgoing and extra, whereas Liam is more reserved. So at this red carpet, as they were being interviewed, when Miley attempts to dance on her former husband, he tells her to stop because she's gonna scare everyone and it's only mildly awkward, at least according to fans. Some might not have thought much of it, considering Liam did laugh it off, but fans thought he was only doing so to avoid making the moment more awkward than it already was. And this wasn't the first time their personalities clashed at the carpet. During the premiere event for the Endgame film, as they were getting their films taken once again, Miley tries to air-lick Liam, which he didn't appreciate. He says something unclear to her, and that seemed to settle things between them. While we may never know the actual reason behind their divorce, it wouldn't be super surprising if at least part of it had to do with their different personalities. Next up is Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. Miley and Liam aren't the only couple to have it out on the red carpet. Kind of. A few months ago, J-Lo and husband Ben Affleck were attending the premiere event for her new movie, The Mother, and they were all smiles until they weren't. At least that's what some of the promotional photos claimed when they were uploaded. Some of them looked like they captured the moment the two were in somewhat of a heated argument, considering Ben looked angry in many of them, and for one, it looked like Jennifer was trying to calm him down. Some fans were even worried that this was the case and that Jennifer married a man with anger issues. As it turns out, the two were not fighting or were in bad spirits that night, especially Ben. According to a lip-reading expert, they were just talking about posing for the cameras, and that explained the hand gestures and whatnot. As for Ben's face, well, in past interviews, he admitted to having an RBF. So combine those two together and you just have pictures taken with zero context. Coming up next on this list is Dakota Johnson and Melanie Griffith. The 2015 Oscars was probably the first and last time Dakota Johnson would willingly bring her mother, fellow actress Melanie Griffith, as her +1 to another Hollywood event. At the time, the 50 Shades of Grey movie just came out and everyone was talking about it. When asked if Melanie had watched her daughter's film, she said no because it would be strange, which is totally valid considering the movie's R-rated content. It's a little awkward from this point on, as Dakota suggested that her mom will probably watch it one day. The reporter, Ever the Professional, tried to segue the conversation out of there, pointing out how talented Dakota was in the film, and then Melanie said that she doesn't need to see the film to know how talented her daughter is. But this seemed to be the last straw, as Dakota said that fine, her mother doesn't need to watch it. Watching this interview is like watching a friend and their mother arguing and you have no choice but to sit there and watch the awkwardness unfold. Next up is Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. During a New York Fashion Week event in 2018, both Cardi and Nicki were in attendance when, out of nowhere, there was a full-on fight, or an attempt at one, if it weren't for their many security guards. According to footage taken that night, Cardi tried to go after Nicki, but to no avail. The artist could be heard daring Nicki to say something about her kid again, which might have instigated the whole fight. Some reports claim that aside from Nicki saying something about Cardi's kid, she also purposefully stepped on her gown. Though the two never actually had a full-on brawl, it seemed like Cardi got the worst end of it, as she left with a huge bump near her eyebrow and the bottom half of her dress was fully torn and detached. She did manage to throw one of her heels at Nicki, which Nicki's team ended up taking back with them. Whether for evidence or not, it's unclear. Cardi later shared a statement, probably towards Nicki, that she'd let her disrespect her time and time again, but mentioning her daughter was the last straw. Next up is Vitaly, again. Remember how I said I'd bring him up again? Only this time, America Ferrera was this man's target. During the red carpet premiere for the second How to Train Your Dragon movie, he once again managed to go to this event, surpassing all security, and got himself on the literal red carpet with the other stars. While America was standing with her co-stars in front of the cameras, Vitaly attempted to crawl under her dress and was only half successful. He was immediately pried away from her and tackled to the ground by security guards. Everyone was super confused and a little shaken up by the incident, but after he was forced off the premises, the rest of the night went off without a hitch. And finally, we have Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme. In 1992, during the Cannes Film Festival, both actors were in a fully fledged, heated argument that surprised staff and fans watching on. It's unclear what exactly they were saying to each other, but obviously it wasn't anything good, as Dolph provokes him with a tap to the chin, and Jean-Claude seemed fed up and shoves him back, earning himself a shove as well. And with the many red carpet staff mediating and putting themselves in between the two, there was no stopping them from having it out right then and there in front of the cameras. This very real-looking fight ended up not being a real fight at all, and it was actually planned and staged by them both. At the time, their film Universal Soldier had yet to come out, and their director wasn't promoting the film or them very much. So they decided they needed to bring attention to themselves somehow. Fully inspired by Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger dancing together and the media attention that they received for it, Jean-Claude believed that fighting at the red carpet was the perfect publicity stunt for them. And he was right, as people were invested in both them and their upcoming